करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति।
Today, on the occasion of Guru Purnima, we have this wonderful opportunity of taking a look at objectivity, a very important subject which, if we do not practice, we live a life that is filled with stress, pain, unnecessary trouble. And Shakespeare has put it, echoed the sentiment of the Upanishads, the central theme actually of the Upanishads, when he says, in As You Like It, all the world's a stage and all men and women mere players. They have their exits and their entrances. So we are living life, or we should live life, like an actor plays his role. The actor is not the role. This is the fundamental thing we need to understand. So when Aamir Khan plays different roles, in one movie he may play the role of a brilliant scientist. In another movie he may play the role of a hopeless romantic. In the third movie he may play the role of, a comedian or an alcoholic. But none of those roles impact on Aamir Khan as the actor. That is what makes it so enchanting. That's what makes it so entertaining. And that's what makes his life so fulfilled. But when it comes to us, because we don't understand this, we don't understand the distinction between the actor and the role. We don't even know who the actor is. Who am I? Who is this actor? We don't know. And therefore, because of this ignorance of the actor, we've got messed up with the roles. Each and every role that we play is so badly messed up. We change the script, we mess up our lines, we enter the stage of life and refuse to leave. And so you have to be escorted out. Have you seen little children put up a performance for their parents? Little 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-olds. During the rehearsals, they play their roles beautifully. But on the final day when they come on stage, they're looking for their parents. And so they forget their roles and they wave out to the parents and the whole thing is messed up. So the teacher has to come and gracefully escort the kid off stage. And that's what happens to us. Except that we are not kids. And so when we mess up our roles, we mess up our lives. We mess up the lives of our children and grandchildren. We mess up everything around us. And it is so tragic that we human beings who are born to excel end up ruining our lives. You should see what's happening to kids everywhere. And this is what is happening to kids because the parents are so badly messed up. For petty little ego boosts, for little one-upmanship games that you're playing with family members, with others, you are ruining the lives of your children. Over and over again, I keep hearing. In the US, in this trip, I heard of 12-year-old kids who had turned alcoholic and the parents didn't even know it. It's only when the child has an accident and the cops call the parents and say you have to send your son to rehab, that's a wake-up call for the parents. You want this to happen. Each one of us sits there quite complacent, thinking that this is not going to happen to my child. Why will it not happen? Because you are living with a toxic mind. You're living with selfishness and self-centeredness. So it's about time we woke up. It's not about paying homage to our gurus. they don't need our homage. It's not about playing games with each other. It's about waking up to our responsibilities and the fundamental responsibility we have to ourselves. As Swami Ramatirtha said, your only duty in life is to be cheerful and happy. If you're not, there's something fundamentally wrong with you. Not with your spouse, not with your kids, not with your boss, but you. And the day you wake up to it, your life will change. So, play your role. Once you understand the distinction between the actor and the role, you will play your role wholeheartedly, fully. Sarva bhavena, as Krishna says repeatedly in the scriptures, but dispassionately. That combination is impossible to get. If you're dispassionate, you're indifferent. So you're not playing your role wholeheartedly. If you're wholehearted, you get involved. And you're rajasic. It's only when you achieve this combination of wholehearted participation, yet dispassionate, meaning you play every role to the best of your ability as if your life depends on it, knowing fully well that it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. Then you will live life perfectly, like Krishna did. Just now you heard wonderful compositions of Krishna. Every little thing he did, from the time he was an infant till the last day, everything he did was done perfectly, but objectively. And in Julius Caesar, Shakespeare brings this out beautifully. I can't think of a better example than this. Mark Antony. When Caesar is assassinated, he is grief-stricken. He can't believe that his noble friend could have met with such an end. He says, "Oh, pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth, that I am gentle with these brutes." Meaning, the people who killed him. And he finds it difficult to put himself together. But once he decides on the course of action, he knows what he has to do, and he does it perfectly. So he pulls himself together, goes to Brutus and asks for permission to speak at Caesar's funeral, which Brutus grants, in spite of the other assassins warning him against it. And then he leaves the scene and goes away. So there's no chance of retrieving the situation. And Mark Antony starts so innocuously, saying, "I've come to bury Caesar, not to praise him." But then he begins. It's objective all the way through. He says, "When the poor cried, Caesar cried with them. Does this in Caesar seem ambition? Yet Brutus calls him ambitious. But Brutus is an honorable man," and so on and so forth, till he stirs the crowd to mutiny. And the most important part here is, in the end, he says, he stands aside, he's done his bit. Now let it work. "Mischief thou art afoot, take thou what course thou will." If he had joined them and said, "Get Brutus," he would be a Rajasic person like any one of us. If he had sat there and said, "Anyway, Caesar's dead, now let me look after myself," he would be a tamasic fool like many of us. We are so full of apathy in this country. Things are happening around us. Some of us know it, some of us don't know it. We just don't care. As long as my bread and butter is okay, it's fine. Let the country go to dogs. That's our attitude. But here is a man who did his bit. And how well he did his bit. But in the end he said, "Now let it work. Whatever mischief they've started, let it work. I've done my bit. Now it's time for me to retreat." That is what objectivity is. So objectivity is about what in Sanskrit is referred to as Sakshi Bhav. You take the role of a witness, observer, not involved. You know your level. When you pass by, see a street fight, two cars have a slight, they touch each other, scrape each other. And the next thing you know, both the drivers are done, they're fighting with each other. And before you know it, a crowd assembles and everyone takes sides. Yeah, he's right and you're wrong. And you have nothing to do with it. You've got involved in something that you have no idea what's happening. Then your level is pretty bad. Here he's talking about a stage where you take on the attitude of a witness in your own life. What's happening around you in your own life, you say, I'm a sakshi. Impartial, not partial. Like when Gandhiji was given a scholarship and was told, you send the best candidate to England to study. And he followed it to the T. He found the best candidate and sent him, not his own son. Impartial, unbiased. You know, whenever there's a cricket match, tennis match, football match, even before the match starts, you've taken sides. And there are people, spectators. Now this, what is it called? European football match is going on, where we have nothing to do with it, but the spectators are fighting among themselves. Unprejudiced, like a judge in a court. The law is that if the judge is even remotely connected with either party, he has to, what is it called? Recuse himself. Stay away from the case. And that's how you should live your life. So what is he talking about and where are we, the poles apart? So objectivity is about being apart from the situation, not a part of it, not a part of it. Of maintaining the attitude that you are apart from it even when you have a central role to play in that. But when you're not objective, you are like a spectator jumping into a boxing ring and getting bashed up by both parties. That's what happens. You should take the role of a referee. You know, if you're a referee, both of them beat each other up, but you are safe. So take the role of a referee. When you're not objective, you don't see things as they are. You don't see the reality. You see things through a curtain of your likes and dislikes. So therefore you have a distorted vision. Somebody you don't like, you cannot accommodate the fact that that person may have some good qualities. And you project all kinds of negativities onto that person. In the end, who suffers? You, not the other person. So you accuse a person of doing things which has no basis on reality. The basis, if at all, is on your likes and dislikes. So you're viewing the world through a filter of your likes and dislikes, through your prejudices, through your biases. And the more selfish and self-centered you are, the more you will be biased. The more insecure you'll feel. The more you are threatened by good people. So you end up in a situation where you look at well-wishers as enemies. You look upon partners as opponents. And then you end up making friends with all the wrong kind of people who stab you in the back. This is the life of every gullible citizen. So you get crushed by a world that is of your own imagination. See, first of all, Vedanta tells us, philosophy tells us, the world itself is an illusion. In that illusion, you create another illusory world. And that illusory world that you've created, it becomes that Frankenstein that finishes you off in the end. All you have to do is set aside these filters of your likes and dislikes. Doesn't matter whether you like a person or not. The question is this person good for me? Is this association with the person in my interests and in the interests of my family? If so, however difficult it is, go through with it. Otherwise, you'll end up shunning good people. Please remember one thing. The good people are the ones who are honest. But you fall for dishonest people who tell lies. And you believe that honest people are the ones who are telling lies. What can you say to people like this? It's only when you suffer in the end that you wake up. It's too late. It's just too late. So therefore, it's a wake-up call. The wake-up call is, how do I set aside my likes and dislikes? In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is full of grief. The first chapter of the Gita is a complete write-off because it says Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the yoga of Arjuna's grief. And he goes on and on and on, one whole chapter, 47 verses, and the 10 verses of the second chapter. It's only when he completely breaks down and surrenders to Krishna for help that Krishna speaks. His opening words are, Arjuna, you are grieving for people that you should not be grieving for. There is no place for grief in the world. All grief comes from wrong identification and attachment. So what is this wrong identification? Identification with your own body, mind and intellect, and that creates desire and ego. Now once you're stuck with these desires and ego, you have to go around fulfilling these desires and you have to feed your ego. So therefore, the understanding must be there that I must mellow my personality, mellow my ego. Swallow this bitter pill of ego. Stand apart from your desire. This is totally opposite of what the world is all about. The world says, assert yourself. The world says, go fulfill your desires. I remember when the US recession started, it was President Bush who said, desire more, you must want more, go shop more. And this is the end. This is the result. So, in our culture, it's just the opposite. Sant Tukaram says it so simply.
आस भय चिंता लाज काम क्रोध आस भय चिंता लाज काम क्रोध तोडावा संबंध यांचा माझा तोडावा संबंध यांचा माझा तरीच हा जीव सुख पावे माझा
Taricha ha jiva sukha pave maja. Only then will you be happy. When you stand apart from your own desires and its modifications, greed, anger, fear, so on, mada, matsarya, envy, arrogance, so on and so forth. Don't feed it. And what is the wrong identification? With your body. Body means not just physical body. Gross body, subtle body, causal body. Your physical body, your mind and intellect, and the causal body, vasanas. So this composition actually begins with
देवाताई सा करी उपकार देहाचा विसर पाडी माझ देहाचा विसर पाडी माझ तरीच हा जीव सुख पावे माझा
Dehatsa visara padi maja means, do me this favor, he asks of God. Let me forget my body. And what are we doing? Just the opposite, asserting that body, asserting your individuality. This doesn't mean that it's a frightening thing, you forget myself. It is, how do you do it? There's a method, there's a procedure. Identify with a larger cause. Expand your mind to accommodate the interests of others. Understand that the world is finite, passing, ephemeral. Don't sell your soul to anything in the world. So, let's take a look at your personality. Who am I? Who are you? You and I consist of, first, the body, which is your external personality. Your inner personality consists of two wonderful instruments called the mind and the intellect. And the last one is Atman, the spirit. So these four components. The body is just a vehicle that carries you from place to place. So for the purpose of this discussion, we will not discuss the body. Anyway, you are obsessed with the body. Atman